Good morning. Welcome to DCC Today. Happy Friday to you. We're going to start off with a photo of the day from Paul Wessler, and this is a picture of some begonias that Paul has. So Paul, beautiful flowers and a beautiful picture of the flowers. Thanks for sharing that. Announcements. Sunday morning, we'll be continuing with our teaching series in the book of James, Faith Has Feet. And we're going to start something new this coming week. And that is, we're going to have the service available for viewing as of midnight on Saturday night. That means that you don't have to wait till 10 a.m. to see the service. If you're an early riser or you have a group of friends you want to get together and do church together early, you can do that now on Sunday morning. And we already have the DVDs going out, and so we figured since people that have DVDs can get an early start, we'd let everybody have a chance at an early start. So this Sunday, you don't have to wait till 10 o'clock. You can do church early if you'd like. And then don't forget to the town hall meetings that we're setting up. We really want to hear from all of you. And so we're setting up a series of online as well as in-person meetings so that we can just talk about your thoughts as we move into the fall. What should we be doing and how can we do it best as a church? And if you'd like to be part of one of those conversations, and if you haven't done so yet, contact the church office and let them know. There was an email survey that went out. If you've seen that and filled it out and sent it in, then you're all taken care of. You'll get scheduled. But if you haven't done that yet, please let us know. We are doing sessions on Tuesday nights from 7 to 8 p.m. and then also on Wednesday afternoons from 1 to 2. And again, some of those sessions will be in person here at the church. That's limited to 20 people, or we'll be doing them online via Zoom as well. And we'll do as many Tuesday night and Wednesday sessions as we need to get everybody in. So I hope you'll be part of that discussion. Then women's ministry. I mentioned this earlier in the week as well. Our women's ministry is gearing up for fall, and part of getting their plans in place for the Bible study this fall is they want to hear from all of you ladies. And so there is a survey that was sent out church-wide. You should have gotten that in your email. And if you didn't get it, if you haven't seen it, contact the church office and get that resent. They're asking for a pretty quick turnaround on this. They would like to get the surveys back by August 3rd, which today is the 31st, so that means they want them back by this coming Monday. So be sure that you get that. And if you need to request it from the office, you need to call this morning and ask so you have time to get it and get that filled out this weekend. And they very much appreciate your help. Speaking of women's ministry, speaking of ways to bless ladies, one of the special guests that we've had all week with us has been my co-host, who I introduced initially last Sunday, and that is Mr. Wonderful. And Mr. Wonderful, every day this week, has been sharing some gems for us men about things that we can say that would really encourage and bless the hearts of the special ladies in our lives. And so, Mr. Wonderful, I'd just like to turn the mic over to you one more time to see what you might have that we could learn. What would you say to that special lady in your life right now?
Can't your mother stay another week?
Wow, that's amazing. You really are Mr. Wonderful. I thank you so much. Thank you for co-hosting this week. It's been wonderful. How about a devotional thought? This devotional thought comes out of Proverbs chapter 3, verses 13 and verse 17. It says, "Blessed is the one who finds wisdom, and the one who gets understanding. Her ways, the way of wisdom, are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace." We're going to be taking a look this Sunday at James chapter 3, verses 13 through 18. And let me just read for you what verses 17 and 18 says, because it ties into this. It says that the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. James has often been called the Proverbs of the New Testament. And here again, he picks up this theme that we see back in Proverbs that says, the one who finds real wisdom, who gains real understanding, finds something that leads in a path of peace. And James says that if we're laying hold of God's wisdom, the wisdom from above, it's a wisdom that values peace, it values being reasonable, being merciful, being impartial, being sincere, and it says that when you gain that kind of wisdom, those who sow that kind of crop, they reap a harvest of righteousness. And what they have sown in peace, they enjoy the fruits of peace. So I hope that whatever challenges you may be facing this week, maybe some hard conversations that you're going to have. I don't know what may be bringing that about, but we all get in those situations. I pray that you'll be looking for the kind of wisdom that seeks for mercy and peace and good fruit because it yields a good crop. Well, we have got another segment this Friday. On Fridays, I've been doing this series. Robert Bourquin, he was a young sergeant in the Marine Corps during World War II. I got him to share his story a few years ago, and we've been sharing bits of that as we go along. Bob, at the time that he told the story, was the oldest surviving veteran from the battle for Wake Island. If you have missed any of the prior weeks, they put up a valiant fight for almost 2 weeks against Japanese invading forces with just 150 Marines. They eventually were overrun, they were taken prisoners, and then spent the rest of the war as prisoners in a POW camp in Japan. And Bob is now going to tell us a little bit more of that story.
One thing the Japanese, I think universally, lack is a sense of humor. And we Americans are always joking around and kidding around. And I remember one time we were out getting ready to put in a big farm garden. And they would work so long, and then they'd say yasame, which you could rest. And during the rest periods, we have what we call bull sessions, where each guy tries to out to the guy in front of him with an elaborate story. So what we didn't know was our guard, Watanabe, had been told to find out among the prisoners who the farmers were, or ex-farmers, because they wanted people that could know how to plant and so on. So anyway, we start sitting there, you know, and Watanabe said, how many of you were farmers? So we all raised our hands. I mean, and most of the guys were city guys anyway, but we always just go along with anything. So anyway, they start telling stories about their farm life, crazy stories. And then he turned to me, he says, Gunzo, that's Sergeant. Gunzo, what about your farm life? So I thought, well, I'll really do a big one. I said, well, I'm not a low-down dirt farmer like these guys. I was a certified chicken expert, a poultry expert in Petaluma, California. My parents had a big chicken farm with 10,000 chickens, and everything was automated and air conditioned. And he starts looking at me, you know, he starts writing down, and I couldn't figure out. I said, we didn't even need help. I said, everything had machines doing it. I said, Americans can invent anything. And he keeps nodding his head. He's just a kid. He's only probably 19. So I said, we didn't even have to pick up the chicken poop. I said, we had this automated machine, this robot would go around and pick up all the chicken poop. And he looked at me, his eyes got one, and I said, I said, we had this beautiful chicken poop machine. And I said, it was a marvelous thing. And one of the guys spoke up and he says, boy, you sure are certified. And I said, well, you guys just don't know how marvelous that machine was. Well, anyway, I thought it was just a goofy story, you know. And the next day, I'm called to the office. And our commanding officer of the prison was Odera Taisa. He had a handlebar mustache and was an old-time officer and a drunk. This is probably why, as a colonel, he was given a job of a prison camp. He spoke French also. But anyway, the interpreter was there, and he said to me, he says, we understand you are a poultry expert. The colonel wants to have his own chicken farm, and we are going to assign you as a chicken expert to teach the colonel how to raise his chickens. And I thought, good Lord, what's happened? The gravy train has arrived. And we had a rule, you never accepted anything that sounded too good. So I said, no, I can't do that. I says, my ancestors would never allow me to give away trade secrets. And so he just got furious. He said, you will do this, or you will be punished. And I said, well, I said, since you put it that way, I think my ancestors would understand. So I got the job as a poultry expert for Colonel Derataisa. I was all by myself. I wasn't even in the prison. I had to go through the prison gate out to the Japanese compound. And here was this chicken farm, 20 some odd chickens. And I had to collect the eggs and turn the eggs in each day. Well, at first, I started eating 2 or 3 eggs raw every day. And I was afraid to cut the ration down too much because they'd be aware that I was stealing them. And then I got to thinking, it'd sure be great to have a hard-boiled egg. So I decided that I'm going to start swiping eggs and taking them into the barracks. So I made a little sack. I hung around my waist, hung down between my legs, and I'd put 2 eggs in them, in the sack. And I had to go through the gate and be searched and give my number. So I come to the guards at the gate when I go back into the prison, and I had to bow and say, my number, Niichi Juichi, and then they'd pat me down and then send me in. Well, I got away with it because they were a little careless in their search. So anyway, my chickens started laying like mad. And instead of getting 10 eggs, I was getting double that almost. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna take a few more chances. So I decided I'd steal 4 eggs at a time instead of 2. So I'd put 2 in the bag, and I put 2 on top of my head and put my hat down over them. And I just hoping that my hat wouldn't come off, because stealing from a colonel would have been a death sentence. So anyway, I got away with my 4-egg caper, got in. The next day, when I went out to the farm, to the chicken farm, here's Matsuo, the colonel's orderly, Colonel Derataisa's orderly, and he says, "Shikoto nai." And so anyway, he said, "Don't work today, you yasame." So he told me to go back to the barracks. Well, I really started getting worried because he said he would collect the eggs. Well, instead of my usual number of eggs, there were quite a few more. Well, that night, I got a call to go to the office. And here's Odera Tysa and a table with Ishihara and a great big bowl, basket full of my eggs. And Odera Tysa has his saber, his great big samurai saber laying on the table. And the interpreter said to me, "Why is it when you don't work chicken farm that we get more eggs? And you're supposed to be the chicken expert." Well, during the time that I had been in the compound there in my section, I'd done a lot of thinking, and I came up with a con again. I figured, well, I conned them into the job in the first place. I'm going to con myself out of it. So I told them that I needed a blackboard and some chalk to explain why there were more eggs. Well, anyway, the colonel let me have this blackboard, and I had chalk, and I did this equation on it. And I told him it was all due to the mold. I said, chickens and laying and molting are very much related. And I said, this formula explains how the egg laying pattern will be. And I said, the secondary feather on the wings will be slightly longer when they're in the laying stage. Why? I went on explaining all this, and Ishihara, who understood English very well and hated us, he said, "What is this molt business?" And I thought, oh, glory be, he doesn't understand chickens. So I thought, well, I can really elaborate on the story. So I went on and on, and I worked this formula out mathematically. And I pointed to the basket, and I told the colonel exactly how many brown eggs and how many white eggs they should get today. And the old colonel clapped his hands like that, and he says, "Heitai Ichiban, number one, Sergeant." I think he knew all the time it was a con, because he wasn't a stupid man. But he admired the fact that I was trying to put something over. And I don't think he liked the Ishihara, because the military didn't like their own civilians very much anyway. And to have a civilian put in their group with that kind of authority, was no good. But anyway, I got away with it.
Well, thanks for joining us. Don't forget, Sunday morning, we can see you bright and early. You can watch church as early as you'd like this Sunday morning. And then I'll be back here again on Monday with DCC Today. And until then, God bless.